Yaut, Nuch Abti, Heisliduch Nugwa. Hello, I'm called Ab, and I'm Haisla, and I have something I wanted to share with you about the Haisla language, and I have a document prepared here, so I'll pull that up now and walk you through it. So these are words that I can pronounce, but I haven't heard spoken before. So the first one is Bach Bakwala Nusiwa. And this is a mythical being. It's kind of hard to describe what it actually means. And I should probably also explain that even though I haven't heard the Haisla version of this word, I have heard it in a different dialect. And this is Bach Bakwala Nuksiwe. Bach Bakwala Nuksiwe is a cannibal, or technically a man-eating spirit at the north end of the world in Kwakwakkwak mythology. So I've heard the Kwakwala version, which is Bach Bakwala Nuksiwe, and the Haisla version is Bach Bakwala Nusiwa. So the main difference is the ending of the word. So Nuksiwe in Kwakwala and Nusiwa in Haisla. This next word is T'utfluchtla. T'utfluchtla. And this means black tail. So this could be any animal that has a black tail. It could be a bird. It could be a mammal of some sort. So that refers to any animal that has a black tail. The next one is Tlawasila. Tlawasila. And this is the purifying ritual. You're probably more familiar with Nakwalagila. Nakwalagila is the Gitlop, or the Hanaxiala version. Tlawasila is GM, which stands for Gitmat, or Kitamat, the Haisla dialect. So I've heard Nakwalagila pronounced before, but I've never heard Tlawasila, but I can sound it out. The next one is Huntliquilahu. Huntliquilahu. This means archer, and this is the name that was taken by the founder of Kitimat after he moved here from Rivers Inlet. Before that, he was known as Wa-Mis. Wa-Mis. And then he became Huntliquilahu. This next one, this is all one word. It's Lakahach Lakahakya. Lakahach Lakahakya. This means to eat thimbleberries. So Lakaha is thimbleberries. Lakahach Lakahakya is to eat thimbleberries. And the last example here is Sapochle. Sapochle. I've also seen Sapochtli. This one I found in the Yemmenbach dictionary. This other one I found in Lincoln and Rath. And this means beam of light from behind. Sapochle or Sapochtli. There are no recordings for these words, and I've never heard them spoken before by any Haisla speakers, but I know how to pronounce them. So the question you're probably asking is, how? Well, here's how. I know the individual sounds of the language and how they interact with each other. So I know, for example, that this is an ejective barred lambda, and it sounds like k. And I know the letter I usually sounds like an E. So I know that these two letters together sound like tli. Tli. Also, I know the orthography, or the writing system, so I'm able to associate the correct sounds with the symbols. So I know that this is a lambda, just a regular lambda, and it sounds like dl, dl. So I know this symbol and I know how it sounds because I can associate the tl sound with this lambda symbol. Since I'm able to read the words, I'm able to predict how the sounds or the words will sound. So even though I've never heard Truthfully, I can say it by reading it. I know that this is tu, this is ta, this is tlach, and this is tla. And if I put them together, I get Truthfully. I wouldn't be able to do this, and this is a very important point, if the words were written phonetically or by using a spell it the way it sounds method. So an example of phonetic spelling is like this. Huncliquilas in the Tales of Kitimat book. And you compare that to Huntliquilach. If we break this apart into separate syllables, we can see the differences. So this could be read as hun in English, but in Islak, an E often sounds like a. And also it's being influenced by this N. So N, un. So that schwa, as we call it, the E, it also has an accent mark over it, this little slanted dash on top of it. This tells us that we're going to start off at a higher tone. Hun, and then the rest of the word is going to be at a lower tone. Tliquilach. Hun, tliquilach. So this first syllable, it's pretty close. Then we start to see differences in the sounds. So we have kli, and then down here we have tli. Kli, tli. You should be able to hear a significant difference between them. Kli and tli. We also have qua as opposed to qui. Qua, qui. And then the last syllable, las, in the phonetic spelling, lach, in the standard writing system. So when you compare them, you can't really get an accurate spelling through this kind of spelling here, through phonetic spelling. You get, well, for one thing, you have no idea where you're placing emphasis in the word. So is it huncliquilas or huncliquilas, or is it huncliqualas, or is it huncliqualas? There's nothing in this spelling to indicate where you place emphasis in the word, as opposed to the hybrid orthography spelling where we have this. This acute accent marker tells us to place emphasis on the first syllable because that's where the accent marker is. It's on top of the first vowel. So that tells us we're going to say huncliquilach. And this sound is different than k. And then this S at the end here, I've actually heard Gordon Robinson explain why he used an S. And it's because he wasn't able to figure out how to represent the sound in using English letters. So he changed it to S. So the actual sound is and I've heard him talk about that. So that's a proven fact. But another thing you have to keep in mind is that Tales of Kitimat was published in the mid-1950s. That was before any linguists had worked with our language and developed any kind of writing system for it. So that's something that you should probably keep in mind as well. But since Hein Vink started working with our language in the 1970s, he started started taking a closer look at the sounds of the language and how to represent them using symbols outside of the English alphabet. And that's eventually how we got to the Isla hybrid orthography, which I developed myself. And it is an accurate representation of the unique sounds in the Isla language. So the main point behind sharing this is that sounding out words accurately without hearing them beforehand is only possible with a standard writing system. So some people might think that spelling it like this is easier, but the drawback to that is this doesn't really accurately represent all of the sounds in our language because it's only using English letters. Whereas the hybrid orthography has special symbols that a lot of them, like these, are called diacritics. Like this apostrophe on top of the barred lambda is called a diacritic. This accent marker on top of the E is also a diacritic. These are modifiers. So this takes a regular sound and changes it in some way. This small raised W is also a diacritic or a modifier. So we can take regular letters and then modify them so that they make a sound that is accurate to our language. So that, because I can read all of the writing systems that have been developed by all of the linguists that have worked with islak, I can look at any dictionary that any of the linguists created and I can sound them out. Even though I've never heard, like for example, tlawa sila, I can tell that I'm pronouncing it correctly because I know the spelling. I can convert all of these symbols and these modifiers into the proper sounds. And I think that's a really important point. And I wanted to share that with everybody, so hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, that's all I had for this video. Until next time, exquiguelas. Wa.